Well, I liked a lot of what Matt said, and particularly the one word that I really want to highlight is justice. And sometimes there are words like closure and healing, but again, I don't know how a family closes the chapter on their son or daughter who has been brutally murdered, and the healing process could take a lifetime. But I think when these families feel that justice has occurred, now what will that mean for each of the four, some of whom may indeed want the death penalty, others may be satisfied with 4 life sentences with no parole. And we also know statistically it is difficult for members of a jury to agree, in many instances, in totality, for a sentence of death. And I also like what Matt said about some of these aggravating conditions versus mitigating. I just feel that whatever the defense would bring to the table, if there's going to be something, monumental that we simply don't know yet, I still cannot imagine whatever this unknown piece to the puzzle might be, that some way, somehow it would supersede everything else that we've discussed, that we know. So I do like the jury system. I believe that it's an honor and a privilege for those who are selected to serve. And I think they will do their job in a very dutiful and determined and dedicated manner to reach justice.
The judge in this case, Judge Hipple, I believe his name is, put a picture of him up on the screen. He does seem like a no-nonsense judge. Judge Stephen Hippler, actually, Hippler. Because let's not forget, this case was tossed to Boise, Idaho from Moscow, Latah County, because the defense wanted that because they felt that Bryan Kohberger could not get a fair trial. So Boise didn't want this, but they have it right now. And now this case, again, he had outlined August 11th to November 7th as the window of time that they're going to allot for this case. If in fact it does go to trial during those dates, your thought about that length of time, Matt?
Well, the last death penalty case I did took 6 months. And, again, it's due process for the defendant. We want that, and Idaho might very well carry out an execution one day, and he's a young guy. So, I think that I agree. This judge appears to be no nonsense. That's exactly what this case needs. But, he, again, will be very cautious because he will be reviewed by the Idaho Supreme Court and then also ultimately the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal, and potentially higher, depending on what the issues are that come up. But if I could just backtrack for a second, Bill, one of the most common arguments we hear regarding the death penalty is this idea of how expensive it is. And, I've always had an issue with that, because what these people do that are against the death penalty, that believe it's barbaric, and there are good philosophical reasons why somebody could be opposed to the death penalty, and all of those reasons aren't wrong, and they're worthy of like rational, cool-headed discussion. But one of the things that just drives me crazy is they'll look at death row, and they'll count the inmates, and they'll count how much it costs, and they'll go, look at how expensive it is to have the death penalty, as if those murders never took place in the first place. Like with life without possibility of parole or a life sentence on them, you have the same guard with the same dental plan, with the same union, and the inmates are going to get the same medicine as they get older. You have the same, like, the appellate lawyers aren't going to run off and join the Peace Corps. They're going to be bringing the same motions, challenging the same convictions. They'll just be arguing about things that aren't the death penalty. So this idea that we're going to save a ton of cash if we eliminate the death penalty just is not true. I've debated other people at law schools around Orange County. I've had this discussion many times, and I'm if they eliminated it in California and my guys truly got life without possibility of parole, I wouldn't lose a minute of sleep over that. But let's have honest arguments, and that's not one of them. Maybe it's slightly more expensive, given the nature of maybe the appellate process, but it is nowhere near as expensive as they say. They eliminate it as if the murder didn't happen, and it kind of drives me nuts.
Wow, Matt, something I didn't even think of some of those things, but then, you and Mike, you got law degrees. I didn't, I was sitting in a dirty alley on 125th. My mom and dad couldn't afford law school. I'm just kidding. That's on me. But, I did the job rather than go to school. Well, I actually went back to school my 17th year in the police department, got my master's degree, but certainly wasn't a law degree. But, I love the way you guys talk. You have all these good lawyer words like egregious, and, stuff like that. We've been on for an hour and 16 minutes. I'm gonna go around the clock. I'm gonna start with you, Dr. Debbie.